Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. So it's finally time to cover the top 5 cavalry clans in Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening. So I've already done a previous video talking about how to build cavalry. In this video I'm going to talk about the top 5. You know, the best of the best. And there are more than 5, but these are what I think are the best ones to play as. The best ones that can get off the ground quickly. And in some cases relatively quickly, because getting cavalry in this game is a little tricky. Now, you know, there's pretty much 3 big things we're looking for with cavalry. I mentioned it in my building cavalry video, but let's mention it again here. That is a strong conservator trait. You also want a stable. And the third thing that you want is to start to develop the equestrian policy. Each of these things has their own requirements. I'm not going to go into all that, just check the other video. But these 5 clans usually meet 2 out of the 3, so that you can get up and running very, very quickly. So we're going to go over the best states for them, why they're ranked where they're ranked, what they have going for them, and what their drawbacks are. You know, why maybe they're not higher up on the list, so on and so forth. So, alright, let's get started. Okay, so for the number 5 spot, I've got to give it to the Miyoshi. Now, the interesting thing about this clan, in terms of its cavalry potential, is that it doesn't reach it until it's pretty much in decline. And that's because of the officer core, right? Another thing, too, this is just one of those clans, man, that goes through so many transformations as the years roll by. I mean, it's really one of the most interesting clans in the game, I'd have to say. They are, for the purpose of cavalry, right, they're just in the right place. That's the biggest help for them, okay? So, and I say that because they have access to quite a few stables in their territories, a total of 4, right? And like I said, they are, well, actually it's 3. You'd have to take Miki to get the 4th, which wouldn't be that difficult, but you have 3 to start with, which is a ton. They might actually start with the most on this list. I'd probably check that afterwards, but so you have access to 3 stables. Stables will give you 3 to your cavalry level just to start off with, so that's a huge advantage in terms of getting your cavalry built up. Another thing that they have is they have a conservative officer who's already at captain rank, so you can immediately start building stables right away. Harukazu already meets that requirement. The conservative tenant, which we're going to see a lot of these other clans just don't have an officer that is conservative and has the right honor to start with to get you equestrian instruction right away, which is kind of shocking. But like I said, cavalry is not easy to build in this game. I mean, this should be evident in and of itself. We're talking Miyoshi at 1567, right? The third thing that they have is they do have 2 conservators, at least to begin with in the game. But this is the part where they're not too strong, because they do have to work towards getting either, if you want elite cavalry or if you want cavalry drill, both of these guys don't have anywhere near the honor. So you'd have to work to get them to senior retainer or above. But they meet 2 of the 3, and they also have a few guys, a couple of guys here who have equestrian. I want to say it's 3 of them. So I mean, it's a little extra. The trait in itself is not very strong, honestly, but it might help you get over that hump to hit that magic number 5. Okay, I actually have a guy with dragoon. I completely forgot about the dragoon guy, Joan Naido. So he does count towards cavalry level, of course. Dragoon gives you 1 and 1. Yeah, they're kind of spread out. Maybe it's only 2. Could just be 2. No, there's a third. Okay, so two equestrian guys and then 1 dragoon guy. So you have 3 traits that are relevant to it. You have 3 stables, which is incredible, and you have access to equestrian policy. So you can start building stables right away to start getting closer to hitting that level 5, which is the magic number, so that your cavalry starts dealing damage. Now, the reason the Miyoshi aren't higher on this list is because of the time period. I mean, all their earlier starts, they don't have a conservative officer that has enough honor in the force, which is kind of weird, but they don't have anybody who can get equestrian early on. They do have an officer earlier in the earlier scenarios, but he's progressive, which is kind of weird. So, in case you guys don't know, one of the requirements to get equestrian, of course, is to be conservative tenant. Well, their officers are mostly progressive. So what is it until 1567 that you have a guy who has conservative and who has the honor right away? So it's a huge boon. But the problem with 1567, of course, is that the Oda are storming over here to restore the shogun. So, and also you've lost most of your talent. Everybody's pretty much gone. Hisahide is going to leave. You know, this is a clan that's really on the decline. But in terms of pure cavalry, they're very, very, very good. I mean, you can get a force together very, very quickly. But it's not going to be easy, because you're, you know, an incredibly mediocre force right now. So you have to work fairly quickly to find your officers and find your guys who can help you, very quickly get established. You know, you need to go get your generals. So yeah, that's the Miyoshi at number 5. All right, so at the number 4 spot, it is the Ryuzoji clan, and choosing what the best starting date for them was a little bit tricky in terms of when their cavalry can get online the best, right? But I went with 1570, mainly for one reason, and that is because Takunobu's son, in 1570, can immediately get this conservator role unlocked for you. Now, I've talked about them in the building cavalry video because they are so good at cavalry. Their biggest strength is kind of the inverse of the Miyoshi, right? So the Miyoshi have 3 stables, and they can immediately get equestrian policy, but their conservator role is not great. Well, the Ryuzoji in this time period, in 1570, they have the opposite. They're even set up for the opposite. So they have a bevy of conservator traits to choose from. So you have tons of cavalry supplier, you have a lot of improved cavalry, you're pretty much your choice. But the key thing is that right away you can put Masai in charge and get +1 cavalry with pretty much no drawback. 10% gold income. I've talked about this before, but it's not that big of a drawback, right? Now, outside of that, they have 2 stables, which again, it's going to be a recurring theme. Having stables when you're trying to build cavalry is so strong. So the first one's right here in Imari, which is not your capital, unfortunately, but it is your territory. And the second one's right here in Nomura, which you have to go get. But, I mean, that's not going to be too difficult. So you have access to 2 stables right away, which, you know, +3, right? Like I said. You have the conservator role access, and the only problem is the equestrian instruction. So they're lacking the 15 prestige, and they don't have a conservative officer who has the captain rank. Now the reason, like I said, this is pretty much the reverse of the Miyoshi in terms of what they can start with. But besides the fact that the Ryuzoji are much better positioned than the Miyoshi are, another reason that I give them the edge over the Miyoshi is because getting equestrian is fairly easy versus the Miyoshi's problem of getting a good conservator. Like, to get an equestrian, you just need to be captain rank, which is very easy, and you need an officer that has to have conservative, of course. So let's see, if we go to them, I'm sure they have a couple of characters. They've got only 2 conservative officers. I'm sure they have no honor. 300 honor. They have no honor, but getting to captain, getting either one of these 2 officers to captain, especially Hiko, who has confuse, she has the power of confuse abuse, is fairly easy, because you can use them in battle, get their honor up very quickly. So hitting that cap and getting the 15 prestige to get equestrian is a lot easier than getting somebody into this conservator role. Because to be a conservator, you need to be a senior officer, which is 16,000 honor, which is insane. And that's going to be a common theme with all of these top 5 videos and build videos. When you look for a conservator trait, if your daimyo has a son, if you're choosing a faction and your daimyo has a son, look to see what your son's traits are, his conservator trait specifically. because chances are the game's going to automatically make him a senior officer. If not immediately, then at some point, a future scenario, he'll skyrocket up to senior because he's family, and he'll meet that requirement. So you're always going to want to check because of this like situation right here. The Ryuzoji have access right away to cavalry supplier, which is huge. +1 cavalry across the board. You know, this is not your main base. This is across the board. It's very, very strong. Really strong effect. It's basically equestrian policy. You know, and once they get this, they can double dip. Now, how you go about getting that? Take 3 castles to get that prestige up. That's how I would do it, because you need to get honor for your conservative guy anyway. But that's up to you. Like I said, 1570 is their best time. Anything behind that, they don't have. Takenobu's son hasn't joined yet, so you could do 1567 and wait the 3 years. But outside of that, you're not going to have anybody with conservator, so you're just not going to be able to get your cavalry online as quickly. You know, right now with this trait, you can get your stable built here, get your 3. Your conservator roll brings you up to 4, and then all you need to do is march anybody that has equestrian. So let's see. I'm sure they've got quite a few guys. Maybe even just 1 guy is all you need, and you'll hit 5. Okay, there's 1 person. So really, you could move this guy, Taketane, over. I think Takenobu himself has equestrian. So you've got a few guys here. Looks like 4 with the main guy. So you've got 4 guys with equestrian. Build your stables, get your conservator roll online first turn, build up the county, stables built, and there you go. You've got cavalry level 5 right away. Very, very fast setup. So that's the Ryuzoji at number 4. Okay, so the number 3 spot is going to be the Hojo clan. Now the reason that they're number 3, they don't have officers who are specifically set up for cavalry outside of Tsuneshige, who is excellent because he does have cavalry trait, and cavalry trait gives you 3 right away, which you can check right here. It's basically the marksman version, but for cavalry units. So it gives you 3, which is insanely powerful. But outside of him, there are no officers that really have anything focused towards it. There's no conservator officers with cavalry stuff. There's only 1 other officer in the whole force that has equestrian. But the thing about the Hojo is that they're in Kanto, so they have all these stables. 5 stables to start with, which rivals the Takeda clan. I mean, they're pretty much tied with the Takeda clan, and as you start playing, of course, you're going to conquer the rest of this territory. So you actually surpass the Takeda with stables in time. And, you know, having 3 from 5 different castles it's so strong. I mean, you don't even need the officers with the equestrian trait. You'll probably get them as time goes on anyway. You know, it's easier to find the officers than it is to get to stables on this map. But their location, that's pretty much the reason. Location. They're just in the right spot. And in 1560, it's also the right time. Okay, so outside of that, they don't have anybody, like I said, they don't have anybody with conservator traits that affect cavalry. They don't have any of that. And they don't even have access to equestrian instruction right away. You know, you need 2 officers to hit captain. One of these 2 guys here. But that's fine. That's not too difficult. The main reason that what catapults them up into this spot is because of the marriage to the Takeda clan. The laws of Kai, right? Let me show you guys the laws of Kai, because I didn't talk about this. The insane power that is the laws of Kai. So the laws of Kai increases your cavalry limit, right? That's not too big of a deal for the Hojo. The big deal is the second effect. All of your castles get +1 cavalry. That's the part that is just absolutely insane. +1 to all your castles means that your stables, the ones that have stables, are going to be at 4. Okay, it means that the ones that you built, once you get equestrian instruction, ranches. Stables are what you built. So once you built the stable at a place with a ranch, now you're going to be at 5 immediately. Okay, this is insanely strong. This is just as strong as the Psycha policy, which gives you the gunnery. You know, that's the gunnery version of it. This is the cavalry version of it. This one's actually more readily available because of the marriage alliance. Otherwise, it'd normally be just a Takeda thing. But because of the three-way alliance, you get Obane, and once you get her honor up to 4,000, once you get her up to 4,000 honor, then you can take advantage of this. This to me is the main, you know, the clinching point, the point that really just brings it all together. Okay, getting +1, and you can improve it later on. I mean, you can at least get the level 2 to get +2, but just at the level 1, it's enough, because now all of your castles start at 1, and 5 of them have stables, so you're going to be at 4 to begin with. So once you find some guys with equestrian, you're going to be able to hit cavalry level 5 all the time, which cavalry level 5 is the sweet spot. That's when you can pretty much always hit for around 1,000. You know, 800 to 1,000 a hit at cavalry level 5, which is enough to like start to route units or break deadlocks and all that. So Laws of Kai is insanely strong. That combined with the stables is enough. It's enough to get the Hojo the number 3 spot, in my opinion. So yeah, and like I said, 1560 is the best time for them. They do kind of fall off, you know, as time goes on. Once the alliance is over, obviously, once Tsunashige, you know, passes away, but they're pretty good for a while after 1560. So let's get to number. So the number 2 spot is the Nambu clan in 1577. Now, why 1577? Well, just like the Ryuzoji, Harumasa really is propped up by the fact that his son is able to immediately become a conservator, right? And just like the Ryuzoji, it's the same exact one. It's cavalry supplier, but Nobunaga Nambu has the stronger version, which is cavalry level +3. So Ryuzoji, Takanobu's son, only gives you +1 cavalry at the drawback of -10% gold. Nobunaga gives you +3 cavalry. So, you know, all this time in this video, I've been going off about stables, and how, you know, that +3 is so strong, where Nobunaga gives you +3 right away. Okay, across your force. Remember, that's across the force. That's why these conservator rolls are so important to this game, and they're so difficult to get. They're so locked off. I mean, you need 16,000. That's why having, like, when you pick a daimyo, again, looking to see if he has children is so important, because most of the time the children are already, they already have access to the conservator role. So it's so important for your builds, right? Now, outside of that, the equestrian instruction is already pretty much ready to go. You only need 20 prestige to get it. So you just need to take a couple of castles, or you can petition, you know, you can petition the Shogun for a title if you want to do it that way. But I mean, in this game, you're just going to conquer anyway. So equestrian's going to give you 1 stable, which is going to give you +1, right? And then you're automatically going to be at 3 to begin with. And also, just like the Ryuzoji, like I said, just kind of a better version of the Ryuzoji, really. Not by much, but it's enough. You have access to 2 horse ranches. Again, the Ryuzoji had... Let me get this cursor over there. The Ryuzoji had access to 2, but you do need to conquer, take a 4th territory, and you are more spread out and all that. You know, the situation's kind of different, you know, for more than one reason, but just for this simple reason. It's 2... you have to take your neighbor, and this is not your capital. And like I said, your son does have the conservator trait, but available, but it's a weaker version. Whereas when you go back to the Nambu, they have 2 stables. They're both in home territory. One of them's in your capital, which is excellent, because your capital, you can personally develop the county yourself. You can double up on labor to get it off and running, like I said in the building cavalry video. So you have the 2 horse ranches. You're going to have access to equestrian, and again, that conservator role is so strong. I mean, it's just very strong to get +3 like that right away. Incredibly strong. And also, as you move in, I mean, you're going to get access to more ranches. In terms of equestrian, you know, you might have a few people. I honestly don't even remember. I just saw their starting position and I said, okay, these guys are near the top. Okay, the liege, the main daimyo himself, has equestrian, so he'll be able to hit 5 right away. So you'll be running around with level 5 cavalry up here right away. And everyone else is going to be close behind. Once you're able to build a couple of stables in your main territories. Now remember, because this spot, you have these 2 ranches here, 3 and 3s are already 6. And Harumasa has equestrian. So once this is developed, okay, right from the jump, you're going to be at 4 when you deploy Harumasa. Cavalry level, oh, it's at 5. Okay, so there is somebody else who has equestrian here on this listing. Well, this is interesting. It says it says level 2. Okay, so this kind of threw me for a loop, but I figured it out after doing a little digging. The answer was kind of staring at me right in the face. So, for equestrian traits and gunnery traits, the higher your officer's leadership, the higher level the trait is at. So the reason that Harumasa's equestrian trait, right? The reason that his equestrian trait is at level 2 is because he's above 80. It says it right there. I actually went digging through Koei's very confusing manual, online manual, to try to figure this out, but it's right there. If your leadership is above 80, you get +1 to the level. And if it's above 90, then it goes all the way up to level 3. So I really wish Koei would just color the labels like they do with everything else. Would have been a lot easier to spot. I haven't even realized this, but hey, not for the top 5 cavalry video, it's in there. So your equestrian trait, and by extension your gunnery traits, if the character's leadership is 80 or above, it's considered to start at level 2, and if it's 90, it's at level 3. So yeah, Harumasa all that to say, Harumasa Nambu has level 2 equestrian to begin with. So that means once you get the stable built, you're going to be at level 5. If you assign your son as a conservator, which why not, then you're going to be at level 8. So this guy is very, very deadly by himself. Just by himself, he's going to be very deadly. So yeah, that's the Nambu at the number 2 spot. Like I said, they're a more consistent Ryuzoji. And the Ryuzoji are already pretty strong, but the Nambu are even stronger if you just want to focus down cavalry. So let's get the number 1 spot, of course, is the Takeda. I mean, if you thought it was going to be somebody else, no. It's got to be the Takeda. This is the clan that we used as an example in our How to Build Cavalry video, which if you haven't watched that, go ahead and check that out. There's a ton of reasons. I mean, they have over 10 officers that have equestrian trait. They have access to, you can start building equestrian instruction right away, right? Which gives you +1, lets you start building stables. Your conservator roles, you have improved cavalry right away because of the sun. Again, I can't stress this enough. Always look to see when you pick a daimyo who the son is and what his trait is. You can have sons that are not great, but if just the fact that they give you access to a conservator trait can push you in a certain direction for a build. Okay, so always check. So in this case, Yoshinobu already, he gives improved cavalry, which normally I feel like this is the most hit or miss version of the conservator traits. You have to have the trait to do extra damage. If you don't have the trait, you don't do anything. If anybody can do this, it's the Takeda. Again, over 10 officers that have equestrian throughout the game. Just consistently throughout the game until the very end, you know, until maybe 1577 after Nagashino. Then it's a different story. But for the rest of the game, so you have equestrian instruction, of course, laws of Kai. I already covered it with the Hojo, but I can't stress enough how insanely overpowered this is. Just getting free. Your basic, okay, so you know, you think of all the hoops that you have to go through to get a stables built, right? And maybe not for the Takeda, you're not going through hoops, but as I've shown with the, for example, the Ryuzoji clan, with the Miyoshi clan, sometimes you don't have a guy that has conservative, who has the honor. Or sometimes you don't have the prestige. You don't even have the 30 prestige. Ryuzoji had 15. Sometimes you do have to jump through hoops to get Equestrian online, just to build a stable and get one level. Well, Laws of Takeda does all that for cheaper. It gives you one level of cavalry and you don't have to build anything. It's just everywhere. All your castles. It's insanely powerful. You know, the Takeda are the power fantasy for cavalry. I mean, that's who you want to pick. If you want to get an idea, if you want to have some epic moments, some huge forces that are just clashing, if you want to watch your army clash through and just wipe people out with cavalry charges at the onset of the battle, and you want to do it quickly and easily, you know, you want to have that power fantasy right away, the Takeda are your people. Look at all the ranches. I mean, almost every castle, if not every castle, has access to a ranch. This might be the only one that doesn't. All the other ones have access to one. It's just, they're the clear-cut number one. Also, of course, like I said, with the Nambu, the revelation that Equestrian and Gunnery are stronger based on the leadership. So Shingen has level 3 by himself. I really wish Koei would have explained this better. But if you go down to Equestrian here under trait details, you can see if your leadership is above 90, you get +2. So with the Nambu Daimyo, it was only +1 because he was at 80. But because Shingen's 90 or higher, he gets +2 to his Equestrian by himself. So he's already at level 3. It's huge. I feel like this is a game changer because now you have to pay attention to leadership, which is a nice little touch. But like I said, we really should have gotten the conservator trait treatment, where if it's only level 1, it should stay blue. If you're at level 2, because your leadership is 80 or higher, you should be silver. And if like Shingen's case right here, his Equestrian should be gold plated because his leadership is above 90. So you can very quickly, get it down just at a glance. Okay, this guy's Equestrian is going to be 3. Because with Shingen, I'm going to know that, right? But if I have another obscure officer or somebody who I don't know, I'm not familiar with, I'm going to have to dig in, go through the menus, and find his leadership stat to see how strong the trait is going to be. Versus just glancing, like the conservator traits, for example. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about, because it seems like such a boneheaded thing. Like, you did it for this, why wouldn't you do it for this here as well? So, improved cavalry, you can see right here, Shingen's has got a stronger version, the strongest. It's gold plated. Nobusada has the second strongest. It's silver. Just by looking at it, I can get an idea. Okay, this is the level 2. This is the level 1 right here. It's blue. Here's the level 2. It's silver, and here's the gold. Now, there's no distinction with Equestrian here. They're both blue, right? It's confusing. So it led me to believe all this time that Equestrian is always level 1, and that's not the case. It's dependent on the officer's leadership. So just change the color of the plate to reflect that, so people can know and they don't have to dig through the menus, But it's hopefully in an update or something, it'll get addressed. I'm not gonna hold my breath though. So anyway, that's the Takeda at number 1. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, we have the building cavalry armies video on the channel. So go ahead and check that out if you want to know more about the ins and outs of how to put them together, and not so much who's set up, right? And we're going to have a top 5 musket armies coming out soon, and then I'm going to get into more builds and stuff. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got the Mazuyuki playthrough right now at Sekigahara, and we're doing the Nobukatsu live stream. Do a live stream every Saturday at around 9 p.m., I'd say. So, well, yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one.